Hi Flosstube, this is Kim back again with another weekly update for Flosstube number 39. Today is the 21st of October and today is the day. By the time this video is uploaded and published, my husband will be on his way, his long journey to the other side of the world for his deployment. But because it takes a few days, I'm not going to talk about that too much right now. Because of what we call operational security, we don't talk about troop movements and things online. I'll be able to tell you a little bit about it next week, but not going to talk about it this week. However, I'm pretty sure I'm going to put in as the thumbnail to this video a picture from my deployment to the same location 13 years ago, and I can talk a little bit about that at the end. But first, we're going to talk about stitching. So last week Monday, because I had such a good stitching day, I had already started the week's homework in the School of Magical Stitches and Literature. So I had one task left on a summer ball and then several tasks on trick or treat. So on a summer ball, the task was to work on a piece that was cursed. And I started this piece like 4 times before I, didn't make any mistakes or didn't have any fabric issues. This is by Cross Stitch Arts. Link is below. You can either contact them on Facebook or Patreon. Looks like a scene out of Pride and Prejudice. I only had to do 200 stitches, but that was a good start on a new page. And I told you I would show you the whole thing since I had it in the Q-Snap last week. So 2 full pages done, and then my 200 stitches are there in gold and yellow for that lady's dress. So real simple to get those pages, plus I finished the gridding on the page 3 on that one. These pages are bigger than a Haid page, and it is an entirely different experience to stitching that versus stitching on a Haid or a Tilton Crafts. The last extra credit task that I had to do was to do 500 stitches on a piece that had a Horcrux, and I chose Friends Forever by Anne Stokes because she has a crown or a diadem on her head, and because it's tent stitching, I had to do 1,000 stitches on this one. I'll show you what the whole piece looks like so far. This is on 25 count Lugana. So there's the whole thing. And we'll come up close to the page I'm working on. Again, my usual method is cross country by color per page. So I'm just working in this page here. Let me see if I can get better focus. And it's hard to see, but I did most of this and then just all over the page in here because it's a confetti page, so that's what it's going to look like until it finally all comes together. But certainly chipping away at it helps, and I'll chip away more at it this week for one of the bonus question in this week's homework, because we're going to the cave to retrieve the necklace Horcrux, is to stitch on a piece with a necklace on it. Well, she has a necklace on. So I'll do 410 stitches for that bonus points. So you'll see this again next week. And then for Full Coverage Fanatics, October by the numbers 1200, which means 2400 tent stitches. I had 500 more stitches to put into Hogwarts Travel Poster by Country Magic Stitch on Etsy. So I finished those 500 by filling in the rest of the background down here around Hogwarts School. And then I did a little bit more up here because I was a little shy of the 500 I needed. So all I have left is right here, and I'm going to work on it again this week for homework. There is going to the cave. One of the tasks is to trust the chart where you kind of doubted about it. Well, there's only 17 colors in this one. And some of the shades are pretty similar. So when it comes to trusting the chart, yeah, like I didn't think these clouds would really stand out, but they do. So I'll be working on this one for that task. Also, the last task is aguamenti because Dumbledore needed water after he drank the potion. Well, a whole bunch of water in this one. So 200 stitches per task, double it for tent. So this piece will get 800 more stitches. We'll see. We're getting close. I don't know how, if that's going to see me to a finish, if that's going to see me close to a finish, if I'll just keep going ahead and finish this piece this week or what. We'll find out. Stay tuned. And let's see. So that brought me through Thursday last week. Friday was a busy day. I only worked on my daily piece, which is Trick or Treat. You'll see that in a minute. So Saturday and Sunday, I didn't know what to stitch on. And it just so happens that Thursday, my oldest daughter, who's 7, she's in 2nd grade, she finished her first chapter book that she read entirely by herself. Usually, you know, we read it together at bedtime or whenever else. Well, you know, doing schoolwork, we'll help read together. But this is a book that she read all by herself, silently, just throughout the day. And then at bedtime, she'd read a few pages before going to sleep. So 129 pages she read in 4 days. Because she also took it to school with her. And when the teacher said, you know, gave them time to read them to themselves, she read her book. So she was very proud of herself. Of course, I was proud of her too. And since she was using pieces of paper as a bookmark, I said, we got to remedy that. And I have this cute little booklet of 15 character bookmarks that I got in a recent Cross Stitch Crazy. I will try to remember to put that information below since I forgot to look at which issue this was in. I did get it about a month ago at Barnes & Noble, so I don't know if it's still around. These are all by Durene Jones, and go to the back which shows all 15. Focus on, and she chose this princess or queen in pink and purple holding a book. So that's one I'm stitching for her. She chose the fabric, which was a cream 14 count Aida. And I had a really good stitching weekend. Since my husband is leaving, we just kind of stayed around the house and did some things around the house. So I got 1,800 stitches put in, 3 shades of purple, 3 shades of pink, and 3 shades of this gold and brown so far. So 9 colors so far, and all I have left is the rest of the browns in here, her hands, her head and hair, which travels down behind her, and then the whole piece it's not like every single stitch is backstitched, but there's some accent backstitches around it. So this will be a fun bookmark for her. And I'll probably finish that this week. And then my daily piece in full coverage phonetics for the 90-day challenge is Trick or Treat by Randall Spangler. Work on this every single day a little bit, usually at night after my girls go to bed. And last you saw it, I was pretty close to a page finish doing Extreme Cross Country All the Black over here. And let me bring it closer. You can see above the fence is this evergreen tree. I don't know if you call it a tree or a shrub at that point, but it's getting pretty tall. And then behind it is the tree trunk to the big tree on this side. So there's a lot of black in there. That's where I'm working. And I unrolled it for you so you can see the whole thing. Get this to focus. There we go. So there's your whole thing. On the 18th of October was the 1-year birthday for this piece. I now have over 21,000 stitches in black, which is still only 3.8% done. And I have like 40,600 stitches more in black to do. So still an awful lot of black. Here's a close-up to the section I'm working in. So I finished all this top fence over here and started on the evergreen shrub. Now, Jackie in last week's video had a question if I would give some advice to someone who wants to try extreme cross country. And you'll see in this piece I have a blue mark there, and down here. On this piece, I only marked my page breaks. You can see them across the bottom as well. Because there is so much black and it flows really well, I can just, based on the gridding and my previous stitches, is where I count from those to where I'm stitching next. The only time that was difficult was here in this middle section where there's not much black. And so that's where like I would come over here and then work down as much as I could just to get as close as I could to, so I would have less space to count. This was not my first piece doing extreme cross country. Last year I finished a Story Keep by Haid, which was my first attempt at extreme cross country to see if I liked it. It was only 3 pages, and they're not even 3 full pages because they're only 65 stitches wide. So I could fit it nicely in my 8x8 Q-snap, just, you know, moving it up and down as I worked through each page, color by color. So what I did is I took the floss chart that's in the first few pages of the Haid where it tells you the color and the number of stitches. I entered that information in an Excel sheet, and then I sorted it, or filtered it, if you will, from most to least, and then followed that from most to least as I was stitching each color to see what color was coming next. And so I finished it last year. This is SK Die Volker, or Walker, depending if you want the German pronunciation or English. This is based off a poster, I can't remember the artist's name right now, that she did for a play. It is a female Valkyrie on horseback. Pretty badass chick right there. If you look at it up close, yeah, okay, it doesn't have the best detail, but that's because it's a Story Keep. But again, you come back, the details all come together, and it looks pretty cool. So this is what I worked on. This is on 25 count Lugana, not pre-gridded, but I had used my Sulky sliver and I gridded the whole thing. And so as I moved up and down the piece to work on one color, I'd start at page 1 and then just keep moving on my 8x8 Q-snap down and keep working on each color. I think there was 90 colors in this piece. So I really enjoyed it. I had fun, and I didn't have any problem keeping my space. And so that, when I got to the point where I was thinking about starting Trick or Treat, and I really enjoy trying out different methods of stitching full coverage pieces. Some of them I like, some of them I don't. I've tried parking, I've tried diagonal stitching, it wasn't really for me. But at least I tried it, and I know that now. So I know that I prefer cross country per color per page. Excuse me, but I like trying other things. So for Trick or Treat, I decided I wanted to start from the bottom because most people start from the top so I could see something else. And I marked the page breaks first because I knew at a minimum I would need those. So your corner where you start, and then page breaks across. And I constantly check my position in regards to the grid on the fabric, where my other stitches are, and the page breaks. And it's because there's so much black spread out pretty evenly across the piece, that's all I needed on that one. I have my supersize right here to show you. Obviously I'm not doing this one extreme cross country, but because it is so big, I marked it a little differently. So again, using my water soluble pen, the little hash marks are page breaks. You can see page break here, page break here. Then you can see, I don't know if you can read it, but I don't have any problem reading these numbers in person. I started 80 here because that's where the page break is, but then after that I marked every 50. So it was 80, 150, 200, 250, all the way across, because this thing is over 900 stitches wide even after I cropped it. And then I will also do the same going up. I haven't gotten far enough yet where I needed that, but I definitely will do the same going up. Now, as I work up this piece, and as I roll this down where I can't see these numbers anymore, I'm still going to have the side numbers I can you know, judge everything off of. But the other thing, I could just use water soluble, the same marker, and just write numbers on here, because it's going to be covered up. It's going to be, you know, the whole piece is going to be washed when I finish it in 50 years. But the other thing you can do if you don't want to mark on this fabric is get some sulky sliver that you would use to grit a piece that's not pre-gritted, and just mark your page breaks that way. Or if you need more than that, you can mark every 50 or every 20, whatever you need to give you those spots to check your position. And I know there are some people out there that they actually like going the reverse. They like doing the fewest stitches per color to the most stitches per color, like Maria of BAP Addict. She hasn't done any videos in a long time, but she does post regularly on Instagram, or Hap Addict, I think is what it is. I'll try to link that below as well. She posts almost daily her progress. Well, she likes going fewest stitches to most, so that at the end she's just zooming along, doing, you know, over 2,000 stitches a day sometimes, filling in spots. Well, I think she uses pencil to mark some of her lines and some of her spots. But I like being more sure of myself, so I'll probably put in some pieces of sulky to mark those page breaks. You know, I've got 2 different colors of sulky, so I could use one color to mark page breaks and one color to mark every 50. So you got to find what works for you. So that's my advice, is I highly recommend pre-gridded fabric. That'll save you a bunch of time. And then figure out what markings you need to help you, so you don't make a lot of mistakes. So, and start small. Don't start a supersized piece extreme cross country if you're not sure that you don't like it. The Country Magic stitch that I did this Hogwarts travel poster, they have a bunch of different travel poster, you know, vintage style designs for all different fandoms. It's not just Hogwarts. There's Lord of the Rings, there's Jurassic Park, there's different cities, there's like Batman, there might be Superman, there's different things. So go check out their shop. These her designs only have like 25 colors maximum. That's a really good piece if you want to try extreme cross country. So try to find a smaller piece or simpler piece to figure out if you like it before you go big. So Jackie, I hope that helps you and anyone else who might be interested in doing extreme cross country. Okay, I don't know if I talked, so I'm using Hogwarts for 2 of the tasks in this week's homework, and then I'm going to use Trick or Treat for 3 of the tasks. An entryway, so there's an entryway in the fence and an entryway in the house with the doorway. Warm versus light, or warm and light versus cold and dark, because of the Inferi and how they had to fight them using the opposite. So the Inferi like the, you know, cold water, darkness, and then they use fire to fight them. Well, I'm stitching this all in black floss so far, and it's a pretty dark piece because it's spooky Halloween. So I'm going to be using that for the task there as well. And then there's a task for the boat, because they traveled by boat to go get the Horcrux. Stitch on a piece that begins with a letter in the word boat or designer. And so Trick or Treat, that works for that one. So 3 tasks on this week. And then the only other task I didn't cover, you only have to do 3. Let me be clear. You only have to do 3 tasks. Of course, you always get partial credit, 1 point per 100. But if you do all 6, you can earn points for all 6, plus the bonus. You can even do penalty stitches for all 6 tasks if you want, but no penalty stitches on the bonus. Sectum Sempra, because Harry tried to use that on the Inferi, where it like cuts you into pieces or slashes at you. So work on a piece that could be cut into pieces, but all, you know, stitched together, it makes one piece. So this is Haunted Mansion Stretch Portraits. I will put the link below. Each of these could be a separate piece, but together they actually make one piece that's all about the Haunted Mansion at Disney World and Disneyland. I haven't worked on this one in a while, so I'll put in 200 stitches on this one. And that's where I'm at. So I will continue to work on the second portrait of the lady that sits on the tombstone. Let's see, a couple Halloween designs to show you. This one's not really Halloween, but it's fall, and so it comes out, you know, I store it with my Halloween decorations, and that's when it comes out, and I usually keep it out until after Thanksgiving. I forgot what this is called. It's out of a Just Cross Stitch magazine. I will put the information below. It's something about owls. This is not the entire piece. I had this piece of, I think it's 18 count Ada, and it wouldn't have fit all the owls, so I cut some of them out. But it's real fall. This is it. I finished it in a flat fold following Vanna the Twisted Stitchers tutorial. I did this quite a few years ago. It's pinned with I think they're silver pins using this fall ribbon, and then you can see it's a flat fold with my little easel stand, and then it just folds up real nicely flat for storage, and I wrap it in some tissue paper, and it's real fun. I like it. Those are my fall owls. And this one is called Triple Jack. It is a Dimensions kit, or Mill Hill. I'll put it below. I got so much going on, guys, I can't. But I used the same flat fold technique from Vanna and pinned. Now I put beads on these pins too. So there's a black bead on the pin. Let's see if you can. Black bead on the pin, and then to gather up the ribbon. So the pin is actually kind of woven through the ribbon a little bit to give it that gathered effect. And then my attempt at a bow on the top. And some fun candy corn fabric on the back. My phone doesn't want to focus today. So flat fold, same tutorial from Vanna. So 2 fun little pieces. This might be Mill Hill. I'll put it below because of the beads. And then my last Halloween piece is another of my grandma's quilted pieces. So it's not stitching, it's quilted. Again, I have no idea how old it is, what the design is, but this, I remember this hanging up in her house every single year. So quite old. So you got a pumpkin and a witch and a ghost and a bat, a black cat and a jack-o'-lantern. So really cool. And she did not put a sleeve for a dowel in this one, so it's just got a safety pin. And I just hang it up on a nail using the safety pin. Same way she hung it up. So that comes out every Halloween season. And then next week I will show you the trick-or-treat bags that I made for my girls. Because next week I believe is the 28th. Okay, so a little bit about my deployment. What's different between my husband and I is that I deployed with a squadron of fighter jets out of a base in North Carolina, Seymour Johnson. I know there's somebody that watches me that lives around there. So I deployed with one of their combat squadrons in 2006, and I was a first lieutenant. I had served 2.5 years so far. So I was almost 25 years old. And as a aircraft maintenance officer, I was one of 3 maintenance officers going with the squadron. So the flying squadron had all the air crew. There's 2 people per jet when the airplanes fly for the F-15Es. And so they had enough aircrew for them, as well as the aircraft maintenance unit, or AMU as we call it, with three officers, the senior captain in charge of the AMU, myself as the first lieutenant, so kind of second in charge, second ranking officer, and then a second lieutenant who is also female. So we shared a room, and we were always on opposing 12-hour shifts, sleeping in bunk beds in a trailer. And because we're lieutenants, we were still learning about aircraft maintenance. Throughout the 4 months that we were gone, we switched from days to nights and then back to days a couple of times through the deployment, which is hard on your body, but is interesting too, so you can see both sides of the daily routine, if you will, for flying combat missions. So when you take a fighter squadron to the Middle East, to the desert, there's a few different steps. Not everybody travels together because the airplanes have to get over there too. So there's the main body of people, there's an advanced team, and also like a middle ground catching team. So the advanced team goes to the deployed location before everybody else and make sure everything is ready. They take a pallet or two of equipment so they can catch the jets, which is what we call it when, the jets land, and you marshal them in and help them shut down, and then deal with any maintenance problems that they might have. And then also, because theoretically, yes, the jets can aerial refuel and make the flight from North Carolina to the Middle East all in one go, except the people driving can't do that because it takes too long. It's too many hours. Pilots and aircrew are only allowed to work for so long. When you hear of really long missions, it's usually on the larger airplanes because they have extra aircrew on board where they can rotate out, and then the other folks can take a nap on the bunks in the plane. You can't do that on a fighter jet. So the jets went from North Carolina to a base in Spain, and that's where I was. So I was on the middle team, if you will, where it was me and a master sergeant, and then airmen, staff, and tech sergeants to help. They're all maintainers to help catch the airplanes. So we took off kind of second, and these are days apart. Where the advanced team goes to the deployed location, and when we go, we set up. We actually flew all together, the catching team that went to Spain, on a C5 with our about 2 pallets of maintenance equipment plus a pallet of our suitcases. And we're talking pallet that's bigger than I can, it's not like your typical wooden pallet that you're thinking. This is a metal pallet that fits on the cargo airplanes. So we flew on a C5, which has the main cargo area, and then above it, there's area for passengers. So we flew on that to Spain, got checked into our lodging, made phone calls back to the base in North Carolina to see which airplane, because you might have a list of what airplanes you want to go, but when you launch them, there's got to be certain things that are working so that they can make the flight across the pond, because you don't want like your radar to be on the fritz when you're flying across the pond. So we get those calls, we figure out when they're coming. They're flying around when they get closer. They tell us how many minutes out they are and which airplanes have problems, if they're code 1, meaning no problems, or code 2 or code 3, which tells you the severity of the problem, and then they tell you what system needs work. So we catch those jets and go to work. Like the aircrew take off, they go to lodging. They need to sleep because they can't fly the next leg until they get 12 hours rest. So they take off, we do our job, except not all the airplanes that were supposed to be there made it. So now we're on call to hear when the next few, the missing jets come. And so it's a process to get okay, the first wave is ready in 12 hours, we can launch those. And then you have to wait for the jets that got there late. They need their 12 hours, fix anything, launch those so they can fly the rest of the way. We all pack our stuff, pile back on the C5, and fly to our deploy location. But that's not what my husband's doing. He's not flying. He's not deploying with a squadron of people. He's going by himself for a single billet. So he's going to the same place, and I can look up on Google Maps to the satellite image and see what has changed in the 13 years that have passed. And some things are the same. Like, yep, there's all the places that you need to know about on the base. Chow hall, laundry, BX, that kind of thing. But the trailers that I stayed at, they're not there anymore. They have been moved. They're not even exist anymore, because in 13 years they built some really decent buildings. So it'll be an adventure for him. He is traveling part of the way commercial. So, and then he switches over to military. So I gotta end this now before my phone cuts my file. Everybody have a good stitching week, and I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.